What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Canes Insight Daily Podcast, powered by Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. My favorite day of the week. It's Wednesday. We got Mike Ryan. We got a lot to talk about. Classic July lineup. We're talking about 2027 recruits, expanding the board at defensive tackle, and coach names in NCAA video games. So we got the full July assortment ready. Mike, I know you're fired up. How you feeling?
I am not actually that fired up. I am ready for football, though. These are the doldrums of summer. Usually you can count on NBA free agency to help carry you to football. Not really the case right now. So,
whoa. I mean, you got Norm Powell, gritty, heat culture to the bone, highly efficient, 6'11" wingspan. I don't know what's not to get excited about with Big Norm.
I thought it was a positive step. It was a good step in the right direction, but it's not going to, that carried me for 2 days. But now we had CFB 26 drop, and I am happy to announce Pete hop in. Peter Ariz, the key has always been under the mat. I don't know what happened. I think it was the arrow pointing down for Coach Rev's Liberty Bells over there. But the Liberty Bells, are you actually going to go back to Liberty?
It's Reverend Coach. With the,
right,
Reverend
Lord,
Coach. The Lord always comes before the game.
Is,
so just refer to me as such.
Rev Coach.
Yes, thank you.
Rev Coach is back in the dynasty,
and I will just remind you that there were 2 champions in 9 seasons, and I was one of them. It was a dominant run for the 2 of us. Shout out to Coach Connor.
May I remind you that the only championship that you did win was when Connor was traveling abroad and not able to compete for
and every other coach had the same opportunity to win a championship. Coach,
we make no apologies for our on-field success. Pete is back, locked in CFB 26, as many in our audience are, because quite frankly, not much to talk about when it comes around the Canes. No injuries, it looks like Carson Beck is progressing. We're talking about board expansion. I don't like that. That's not something good programs do. Good programs don't talk about board expansion.
We were making fun of Florida State last year for some board expansion.
This is not good. So let's seize on that, D-Money, because that is usually a big red flag. Board expansion, talk me down.
Well, look, I mean, it's the reality of the situation when everybody knows who we're targeting at defensive tackle. Defensive line is the blue chip position. You want to win battles. You have won some really big time battles over the last 3 years. You lost some, you've won some big ones. Those guys need to perform this year, the Justin Scotts, Armando Blunt, etc. But yeah, this year you win Ashari Charles, the defensive end. That was certainly a big win. But defensive tackle, Tyson Bacon, good get. Anthony Kennedy, good get, kind of your low 4-star Southeastern players. But lately it's been tough, man. It's been tough. You talk about Lamar Brown from Baton Rouge.
It's Baton Rouge.
Baton Rouge, lose that one most likely. Anthony Jones, Tank Jones from Mobile, Alabama, probably going to lose that one. Bryce Perry-Wright from Buford, Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia area, going to Texas A&M. So, the Southeast is a tough place to battle for D tackles. They're expensive. We're trying to pay, but it's hard. And now you expand the board because you lost out on those. I don't think there's any sugarcoating that the reason you're looking for defensive tackles outside of the elite highly ranked guys is because you've missed. And look, that's a position where you don't want to miss on elite guys. Those elite guys tend to produce at the next level.
Can you turn your mic, please? Because it's sideways. And
thank you, Pete, for keeping him honest. Now keep him honest again. Hold his feet to the flames here. This is an obvious pivot. And look, he's not trying to sugarcoat the fact that we've expanded the board because we've been failing out there. But Rob does make a good point when he says our board expansion is basically what our primary recruiting class was 5 years ago. Probably better now than what it was 5 years ago. But look, there have been some good players that I can only assume some really good finds that have come out of a board expansion. So what can you tell us about this expanded board? Who's on the radar? Anything promising? I know you of all people would probably talk yourselves into some of these expanded names.
Well, we'll say last year, this is not expanded board really, because this was someone that they targeted, but Dante Simpson, who you got as a 3-star out of Chaminade. We haven't seen him play yet. So still really, you can't, what's the movie? You can't blank each other's blanks yet on this player. But I think.
Which movie is that?
You never heard that? What movie is that?
I mean, I don't know. I don't think that's a movie title.
It's like
you're watching
is
movies
it
that are
Reservoir
titled
Dogs? Maybe it's like Quentin Tarantino.
Let's not bleep each other's bleeps just yet. That's Reservoir Dogs. But
that's what I'm talking
you made it seem
about.
like that was a movie title.
No,
I'm not on that stuff yet.
No, that's what I'm talking about. So
I know you think I'm into hedonism and all that, but no, I'm not quite there yet.
We're not ready to do that when it comes to Dante Simpson, but I think what you saw in spring, physically, the size, the quickness, the production at an early age, you're feeling good about that as a 3-star hit. So I think you're hoping for something similar, which again, your odds drop dramatically at that position. So it can't say board expansion is a good thing or even something you shouldn't be concerned about, because it is. But we do have a offer out as I share my screen for one Caleb Morris out of Mobile, Alabama.
That is how you pronounce it.
6'4", 260. Let's take a look here at the film. Yeah, I mean, look, I like the film.
It's never good when
Single
the
digit.
First 3 words are, I mean, look.
Single digit number. Look at the striking ability right there. Honestly.
How do you feel about single digit D tackle numbers?
Pete, what do you think? I mean, that looks pretty. What was coach?
I normally like them, but to me, it screams undersized defensive tackle. For some
5
reason.
guys blocking him on that play still makes a sack. I gotta be honest. I mean, the film is good. Now, what I will say is this: with defensive tackles, so much of this is when you see him in person, do they look big?
Wait a second. This is him running back this pick six?
Yeah, you like that gait?
No, I like that gait. I like the few plays I've seen here.
He looks like
speed. How big is he?
They say he's 6'4", 260. So I think the concern is, we haven't seen this guy live. I don't believe. All the other guys that we were recruiting, we had him on campus. You know, we saw him in person. We saw how they looked. They were 5 stars, so they were thoroughly evaluated. I'm not sure what this guy looks like, and I think that to me is where it comes down to. Go ahead.
So 26 is saying 7A Bama ball. That I reckon that's a good district, but I am looking at this offensive line that he is presently wrecking in a good amount of this film. They look small and white. Now Alabama in the trenches.
Hold on. First of all, white Alabama offensive lineman. There's nothing wrong with that.
But they look really small.
I think it's the camera zoomed out. Oh, look at that. You know, that's the thing is you just got to see him.
Like, look how small that quarterback is.
It's the zoom. They're zoomed out.
But he doesn't look that small.
Now we're talking. Maybe it's just that big. That zooming out, he's still big.
Well, I guess what I'm asking you is the level of competition here. Do you trust it? Because he's very dominant in what I'm seeing right now, and you should look dominant in your sizzle reel, but he seems to be doing, like, look at this offensive line.
They look like ants. It's zoomed out.
I'll just looking at a picture, I'll pull it up here. I'll tell you who his body type looks pretty similar to a young Armando Blunt coming out.
We'll take that.
Is there any other kind of Armando Blunt?
I'm talking about before he got to Miami.
15 years old?
He looks like he's had a year in the weight room.
Good looking family there, good wingspan, good hands.
The Mississippi State guy.
Yeah,
Mississippi State commit.
Mississippi State has a good history recruiting defensive linemen, I feel like.
Chris Jones, all pro.
Mm-hmm.
Jeffrey Simmons, all pro. I'm just saying, Fletcher Cox, all pro.
Mm-hmm.
I just named you 3 all pros.
You did.
Jake Campbell saying we need a thigh analysis on these new DT offers. How do they compare to Tate McRae and Sabrina Carpenter? That's why, I get down to the frame. You got to see it in person to see the body type. You know, Tate McRae and Sabrina Carpenter, you might put them on the scale and they come out the same, but the shape, the length of legs, the thighs, the waist, these are all things you have to see in person, or at least on a very high quality video, I think, to evaluate properly. Because just stepping on a scale or listed height weights aren't going to tell you the full story. You need to see the frame.
We can all agree Sabrina Carpenter would make the better interior lineman. Lower center of gravity.
You know, I'll say
low man wins.
Low man does win, but you know what? Marley Cook's out there. All respect to Marley Cook. The guy did his thing. He's not around anymore.
Man, what was your favorite contribution he made?
You know, quality depth, right? Good competition. He's stout. He was great. Seemed like a great dude. I know he helped kids with like that needed horses for therapy. You know, like when they take the kids to the horses.
Nice.
So I heard it's just a really good dude. I know Pete loved Thomas Gore. That was your guy.
Tom Gore, man, penetrative. Quick into the backfield. Made a play against Miami last year. Mm-hmm. So
I like names that are just 2 syllables.
Well, I kind of stylized it that way. I don't know that anyone
I like Tom Gore is nice.
outside of myself and Kevin Clark call him that, but
I mean, look.
Yeah.
It was such a great call out.
I will say that the film I did like. I think that he does seem like more of a tweener type than what we I think still need in this class. And yes, you get Kennedy a few weeks back. I just think he's still developmental, more of a product. He's not a ready-made player like some of these 5-stars. You're not going to find a 5-star type as a backup plan. So projecting forward looks like you're going to be in the portal.
Hate being that backup plan.
Johnny Laguna. I'll never forget how D analyzed Evan Neal years ago. He's got a big ass. That was my take on Sofia Vergara. You know, when I met my wife, I was coaching powder puff football in high school, Our Lady of Lourdes Academy.
You should probably say that you were also in high school.
I was in high school as well. Thank you, Pete. We were the same age.
Keeping them honest today, Pete. I like it.
We were the same age. And she was, I didn't know her at the time, but now knowing her background, she was a ballerina, but being Cuban, you know, ballerina, you got to have those long, skinny, you got to be real skinny of frame to be a ballerina. It's not necessarily conducive to the Hispanic or the Cuban race or ethnicity. So eventually just the lower body was too much for ballet. Would have fit in modern dance or hip hop, but not in ballet. So she got out of ballet. But when I got her on the football field, the balance, the coordination, the bend from ballet was all present, but you had more stoutness to hold the point. So I put her at, which I guess in Miami scheme would probably be akin to like a field defensive end, you know, like a Ruben Bain, maybe not as stumpy, but a Ruben Bain, just in terms of the lower body and the still retaining the explosiveness. So that's how we met. And now we've been married for, what is it? Almost 15 years. So shout out to Mrs. Money, Dr. Money.
Dr. Mrs. Money. Appreciate all your contributions to society. I do have some leftover nerdy questions that I wanted to get to last week and we didn't have the time because we got bogged down in CFB 26 ratings, which I imagine we'll get into some again. But Shamar Brown, seems like there's a real role for him on this team.
Wait, hold on. A question from Rob, because I got to get to this. He said, D-Money Dog, his future wife ran a 40 before he asked her out. You know, we had everybody run a 40. She was the only one that didn't run a 40. She just wrote slow on the paper. A little defiant.
Good advice.
A little defiant, which hasn't really changed too much. Definitely strong-willed. But because she had good football knowledge, she had the bend. I mean, her bend was outstanding. Again, former ballerina, and the stoutness and physical play as well. Just a prototypical field defensive end in that system. Had a sack in the game. Was outstanding. Great, you know, obviously a great character, future wife. But yeah, she's the only one that didn't run the 40. Our problem with that team. So again, this is the Our Lady of Lourdes Junior Powder Puff team. Is we had a very strong like running team, but it's flag football. We didn't have the dynamic receivers and quarterback. We had a very good running back. Shout out to Amanda Kidd. I know her husband listens to the show. Outstanding running back, and we had good run defense, but the passing game was a weakness. And then we played the other team, which was the seniors of Our Lady of Lourdes Academy. It was a senior junior game. The quarterback and the wide receiver were lesbian lovers. So their chemistry was unreal. They were like Joe Montana and Jerry Rice in high school because they were romantically involved. Plus, they were phenomenal athletes.
Wait, Joe Montana and Jerry Rice were romantically involved?
I'm not starting that rumor. I'm just saying they had that chemistry.
That would be more of like a Steve Young thing.
Who knows? They had that chemistry. So the combination of the romantic involvement, plus they were both excellent athletes, they were dominant, and we couldn't really keep up. We could stop the run, we could run the ball, but being flag football, the ability to throw the ball down the field hurt us with that particular game. But I mean, I met my wife, so it worked out well. I was also named the homecoming prince. We're junior, so prince instead of king of Our Lady of Lourdes Academy because I was more of like a Mac Brown type of coach. I wasn't into the X's and O's, more of a recruiter, more just keeping everybody happy type of head coach.
904 Hurricane says, I noticed Kenton Dobson and Chauncey Kennon's metrics and ratings are very similar.
I mean, one thing with Kennon, he plays more offense. I would say if I'm breaking those two prospects down, Dobson plays better competition being down here at Norland. So I haven't broken them down that much detail, but they're both highly rated players. We'll see if Kenton Dobson reclassifies there.
There's a pretty wild thing about women's sports.
What? Oh, they can date each other?
That there are certain teammates that are romantically involved.
Yeah, it was impossible to deal with, man. They were just every time she would just roll out. It wouldn't even be
I can see being a good or I can see being a good and bad thing. It's just confusing.
If I were the other receivers on the team never got the ball, I'll tell you that. But she didn't need to because this was such a dominant pairing that this girl would just run around, look for her girlfriend. Her girlfriend would break open, broken play. My wife chasing her. We had some other people chasing her. Boom. Every single time. It was very, very tough to deal with for the junior Lourdes Powder Puff team.
That'll be an interesting dynamic for a head coach too.
Oh yeah, managing that. No, yeah, I don't think I had to deal with that.
Kyle M says, "What do you think the biggest reason for our recruiting struggles is?"
I mean, we're top 10 class in the country. I think our biggest.
Yeah, but vibes are down.
You were losing battles for Southern defensive linemen to SEC schools that are ranked 5 stars. I think our biggest reason for that struggle is that those are hard battles to win. That's what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, those are just difficult battles to win when you're not the best team, and we're not the best team right now. We're not elite, and we're not local.
Couple loops that I want to close. We're going to get to the Shamar Brown one in a second, but did you call Islas for our live broadcast?
I did.
Yeah, how'd that go?
We're working on it right now. John is in Spain. He went to the motherland. So he might be in the actual.
Did you see that there's a movement inside of Puerto Rico to return to Spain? The political party there has garnered 13% support.
Good.
Well, don't you think the U.S. would be receptive to it?
I don't know the ins and outs.
I haven't studied it either. I just found it curious.
Colonialism was bad. Is that what I heard? I mean, we think Spain, they were a colony of Spain.
Yeah. Apparently they don't want like full independence. Although to be fair, this movement only got like 12% from what I saw. So maybe there is an independence movement too. I think the president administration would listen.
Spain. So we give Puerto Rico to Spain.
We get Lamine Yamal.
Is that worth it, Peter?
Would you do that?
Is that
we got to work. We got to deal with Morocco for that one.
Yeah, I mean, okay.
I'm sorry, you digress. He's in Spain.
Look, I mean, with all due respect to our Spanish listeners, I don't think Spain's got a whole lot going on right now.
A booming economy right now.
Well,
I got that from the current administration. They said the economy is going good. But
I'm sure.
They said that. This, I hand to God, it's free from judgment. They said that the Spanish economy is doing really well, but at any moment, which I think you can say literally about any economy in the world, like at any moment.
Mike, we have Gary Furman commenting on the show.
Tell them to pay up in NATO if they got so much money coming their way. But I digress.
So he's in Spain.
Back to thighs. Oh wait, so okay. Finish your take on this guy.
Well, my take was, when are we broadcasting from Islas?
Dayland, they run a tight ship over there at the dining pavilion. So there's a lot of considerations. I don't want to get in trouble with
a lot of red tape.
Well, what about the flagship? What about the flagship?
I don't want to get in trouble with Hot Topic. I don't want to get in trouble with Spencer's Gifts. What else have they got going on out there?
I sent you something with the Kendall Goths thing. You told me that there's a big a blossoming goth community in Kendall. There is in 2 weeks, an after-hours goth skate party, I think at the old Hot Wheels location.
Really?
From like 11 to 2 a.m.
Is it like for grown-ups, or like is it kind of creepy if a grown-up?
Well, it's after hours, so I think it's for grown-ups, yeah.
Huh. Are you thinking about going? When is it?
I have a thing.
2 weeks?
It's in 2 weeks, 2 Saturdays from now. Which is, I guess, Saturday night, Sunday morning. I'll pop in, make an appearance if you're there.
Maybe that's where we broadcast. Community. I remember you had a goth party for your 30-something birthday?
This one's thrown by Hext Miami, that throws a couple of like dark wave goth parties around town, and they decided we're going to have like a skate party at the old Hot Wheels location.
Do goth skate?
I was shocked. It didn't really mesh with me, but you were the one that told me Kendall's got this really bustling goth community. They have a goth shop. And I'm like, wow, I guess T-Money is super right yet again, because why else would you have a Kendall after-hours skate goth party? We're not for a big bustling community. Again, why don't we just broadcast from like the flagship location?
We could. That's what we thought about that. But hold on. So the question from Shaboy Kane: do you know who Mario's bringing AC me today? I'll find out. We'll get that first. We'll find out. Oh, maybe we won't get that first. I'm sorry. We'll not get that first. We'll get that with everybody else, and we'll share it when we get it. A lot of comments here. Stephen Kane saying we'll trade Puerto Rico for Mallorca. P, you were just in Spain. Is that a good trade?
I have not been to Mallorca, but I've heard great things. And
How many times have you been to
I
Spain?
love Spain.
954 says the show is a mess. Ghost of Von Donaldson saying, when is Hurricane?
That's a great question. We should announce that.
Yeah, we got to get that going.
It's the week of the season, the season starting, and we got a big one.
Yeah, we'll get that. We got to.
So we got to do
I got to say, very successful event last year, and we're getting people asking about it, which means very good, very well done.
Hurricane 2025. I mean, I guess this is how we organize things here over at Kane's Insight. Hold on, let's work it out with the audience together.
I got to say, Juan Manuel has a post here where I've not seen so many varied emojis. I just got to check it out. He's saying, hey, handshake. Bill Belichick and his 24-year-old girl lingerie kiss high heels have so much chemistry experiment, science symbol. They start a couples only fan account. Miss Hudson has her dominatrix whip on Bill's posterior. It's on fire emoji up in Boston. There you go. From Juan Manuel Ventura. Five ranks saying WTF.
August 27th would be a good day, right? It's a Wednesday. Hype you up. Or do you want to do a Thursday, the rare Thursday, and then say like, hey, after this show, let's head over to the Grove for a proper Notre Dame ramp up?
We could do that. I mean, I'm working on my preseason, so I got to time it up too with the preseason pod. I know last time we did them kind of basically the same day.
Yeah, we were using Hurricane to pump up the preseason
to get in advance.
So like if we do it on the 28th, that's one less day. Your preseason pod usually drops the Friday before.
Let's say Thursday. Thursday, give people a little build.
And then we can do like a post show.
The game's on Sunday, right? This year.
But you can't drop a preseason pod on a Saturday.
Hold on, here we go. Brian saying, I love that Belichick is being dog walked by I don't know if she's an escort or what a time to be alive. I don't think she's an escort, although it's been rumored.
No, she's not an escort. Stop it.
Your boy Pablo Torre's got the whole scoop on this.
He would have found out. If anybody would have found out if she was an escort, it would have been Pablo. That's an unfair thing to say. No, she was a beauty pageant. I think the real crazy part about Pablo's investigation is it appears that they met when she was a teenager, 19 years old. And they kept that part relatively quiet, understandably. Now, legal age, 19, but still a teenager.
But her parents do own a sex toy shop, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
That's confirmed.
Yeah, Pablo Torre found that out.
Cozy Doctor, the Kaipa podcast better have a classic instrumental. I have one in mind. If you have any ideas, let me know in the chat. Maybe it's better than what I have in mind, but I'm thinking of a pretty good one from the East Coast of the United States. Trey Moore saying, did you see that bomb from Romy Gonzalez, former Kane? 60 feet, Pete. I know it's your guy.
Yeah, man. I think he's hitting like 340 almost this year with the Red Sox. I don't know how many at bats, but yeah, man. Used to have class of Romy, and I actually ran into him in the airport when he got called up in Charlotte. I ran into him. I was on a recruiting trip up there, so it's great to see him. He's one of those guys too that I feel like had a good career at Miami, but you see how many guys get to that next level and are even better pros than what they were at Miami. We see it in football all the time, but it happens in baseball as well.
Great athlete, Romy. So I think it's the athleticism translated out. I saw him in Boston last year. He had a great hit. They loved him up there. So yeah, an interesting career he's had. Stephen Kane saying, let's talk ND tailgate. Be Pon, and I will be at a Cheveria's son's DJ set.
Yeah,
Joe's son DJs?
Yes,
he does. Where?
He good?
I'm not sure, but I've seen that he's
we should partner up with someone that does it so they can assume all liability. I can pick up the phone right now and get Kane's Cartel.
Let's do it.
You want it?
I don't know. We gotta figure out what I'm doing pregame. I mean, I'm old, so I
get a little
I've
social
never
filter in here.
The only tailgates I've ever been to are your top 1% tailgates in the black lot.
Yeah. Hey, we pay our fair share. We're willing to pay our fair share. Did you see that we can write off our private jets now? 100% write off. Thank God.
Congrats, man.
No, man. It was
write
big.
off that parking spot?
It was big. I saw that parking spot. I hope I could write it off. Actually,
it's a school donation, right?
It is. It is a write off. Yeah. I would imagine things have gotten pretty good for me. Who knows?
Shout out to the black lot.
Are we going to do this from the original location? Because I think that could skirt all the issues at Dadeland if we went to the original Islas. Now, Bourdain blew up the spot, and it's a very popular spot now. And I don't know what the acoustics are like, but the fluorescent lighting would make me feel nice and warm and cozy.
Yeah, no, the whole environment is nice and cozy. You feel like you're at your grandma's house. Shout out to Islas Canarias, 40 plus years, the best Cuban food in Miami. Shout out to Eche Palante.
Eche Palante.
DJ Eche Palante is a great name.
Great name.
Wow, that is inspired. How about Finka?
Oh, Finka, man, that's high dining. We can't even afford to be in there.
We can be in the parking lot.
Have you taken the lady to Finka? Unbelievable.
Have I been to Finka?
Talk about the home.
I have a Kendall tattoo. Have I been to Finka?
Finka, if you're into
My
fine
dad
dining.
was born in Havana. Yeah, I've been to Finka.
So Islas Canarias Cuban Express and a sister restaurant also opened by the Andrade family. In this case, Eileen, acclaimed chef who took a trip to Korea and came back with all these different flavors, which she mixed with Cuban food. That's why you have the kimchi croqueta at the Islas Canarias Dayland Dining Pavilion location. But if you want the full enchilada, you go to Finka, and that's like fine dining.
You want the whole enchilada?
Yeah. What did I say?
You said the full enchilada, and that's
like a loaded enchilada.
Joe's other son,
like a loaded
his other DJ,
like a loaded enchilada. Matthew Owen, Finka means farm. My man Matthew was paying attention in high school Spanish right there.
ChatGPT premium right there, $19.99.
It does mean Finka, or it does mean farm. And go to Finka if you want fine dining. If you want just affordable, incredible dining, Islas Canarias.
How about
right
these
there.
Isla bowls, huh?
Unbelievable. And
the base protein. I'm big into Cuban bowls. That's been the bowl. When did the bowl phenomenon kind of blow up? Like there's
bowls. Yeah,
it's a fairly recent.
It's Chipotle.
It's a 21st century thing.
Chipotle, probably.
Yeah, but now Cuban bowls have been a fairly recent phenomenon, and I love that these places are doing it.
I never, honestly, I never ate Cuban food in a bowl ever. It was always on a plate until the recent phenomenon. They got that taken care of there at Islas. Matthew Owen says lots of Dominican girlfriends. There you go. All right, let's talk 2027 offensive tackles, Pete. Huge commitment here from a 27
Zaquan Linton.
Zaquan Linton out of Palm Beach Central, 6'6", 295 pounds.
That's a big boy.
Pete, you got the huddle ready? You want me to put it up?
I have the huddle ready, and let me pull up the commitment post first.
Let's pull up the commitment post. This was a lot of confusion with Zaquan Linton's commit because the bad signal didn't go out. As I understand, that was just sort of a timing deal, not intentional. Palm Beach Central offensive tackle, class of 27. Those guys are rising junior, 6'6", 295, committing to Miami. Miami's excited about this one. Pete, I know you got some info on him as we watch the film.
Yeah.
End of sophomore season film.
Yeah, so let me pull up conversation I was having. This is a guy who, from what I understand, he alerted Miami staff. He alerted Miami staff that he was going to be committing last Friday. You see him here. This is a 15, 16-year-old kid who is very, very raw, but they think has incredible feet, lengthy, explosive. Needs to get in the weight room. This is his stuff at D tackle, but great bend, developmental. And this is a guy you take a chance on a couple years out, as you see him here again. Needs to get in the weight room. There's some more impressive stuff here. You'll see his feet here, but look at the bend.
Yo, this tape is hilarious.
What, just dominating these youngins? Look at that right there. Boom.
Manhandling, folks.
There it is. That's Linton, baby.
He's just lying on dudes.
Yeah, you like the movement skills. Really, then what jumps out to me is
I think this is the one that I like this here. I mean,
I think the size jumps out. 6'6", 295. Looks legit.
Was that a hold?
Wears it well. We're not calling it.
That wasn't the play I was talking about. It just his lateral movement at that size is impressive. Look at this.
Okay.
Look at
this. That's good. We like it.
Yeah. He needs to work on that. He has no idea what he's doing technique-wise. He needs to get in the weight room. But you take a chance on an athlete and a body type on this.
No doubt.
Because look, he's going to either over the next year or so really start to take that. But look, I mean, his movement skills are
like a rock there.
Yeah, this guy's got the natural tools you want. I will say strength-wise is where I think you're going to see the biggest improvement. Sometimes he's got he just the hands and I would say hands and strength would be the area, just pure power. I don't see a lot of power right now, which is normal for this guy's he's 15, you heard, Pete?
Yeah.
About to be 16.
Yeah.
So I think that's the area where you want to see growth. But the stuff you can't coach, which is going to be that size, the fact that he doesn't have to lose a ton of weight, the length and flexibility, the twitch, those are all good things. You like that he goes both ways. Here's what I like here. Hustle, play, big hit. Watch him here. So does his job blocking. Quarterback throws a pick. Now watch the hustle here. Look at this, Mike.
Oh, he's looking to kill.
Look at he's already
looking to kill.
He's already creeping. Boom, kill shot.
Yeah.
I mean, look, those little things, and you hear scouts say it. I've heard scouts say this at the NFL level. Is one of the things they look at with players.
This quarterback's hair
is how they react on interceptions. Believe it or not, that's something that coaches look at with offensive players because they want to see guys flying down ready to hit somebody. I've heard that from NFL scouts. So, something you like to see.
Can I ask you something about Markel Bell? He was a guy that was raw, had obviously incredible measurables. When he was brought over to our team, obviously not a stiff competition when he walked over, was viewed as a raw prospect. Did you do a deep dive into some of his high school tape to see how raw he was?
Did.
And does that maybe give you some, we know our offensive line and our head coach are really good at developing these raw products. Markel Bell is being talked about as potentially a first-round draft pick. If he continues improving at the rate that he had in year one in Miami, the sky's the limit, really, for this player. I'm sure you looked really raw in high school, which would probably give you a reason to be optimistic anytime you see film like this, where there's obvious footwork issues, a guy that's very green.
And as Cooper developed as well, Matthew McCoy is a tight end at this age. So you've seen developmental stories. I would say with Bell in particular, really with Cooper as well, and I think with McCoy as well, but definitely with I don't know McCoy. I don't know him as much. I haven't sat down with him. Cooper, I've interviewed and talked to people around him. Markel Bell, the same. High IQ guys. They want to be coached, and they have the mental capacity to really take it all in. So I think the intangibles, when you're talking about a raw player, obviously you look at the tangibles because that's why you're intrigued by the player, the size, the athleticism, the things you can't coach. But I think when you're taking a raw player, you really have to evaluate the intangibles because that's what's going to allow him to meet his ceiling and learn that technique. If you get a guy who's raw, has all the physical tools, but the mental's raw too, it's harder to project him to get it together because you got to work it both ways. You got to try to teach him the technique and try to get him to care about the technique. Markel Bell watches film all day. He really wants to be coached. He doesn't run from coaching. He runs towards coaching. So I think, and I know nothing about Linton in that respect. Obviously they coached him at the camp, so they're around him a little bit as a kid. But I think that's, to me, in general, when you're dealing with raw players, a raw guy with great intangibles, I'll take every day.
Pete, you got to know Markel a little bit. You did some content with him. What kind of season do you think he's in store for?
I've said since last year, there's a guy who I think could be a top 50 sort of pick. I think right now has a really, really good chance to be a top 100 sort of pick if he plays how he finished the season last year. And I know that a lot of people inside that building think he's taken that next step in terms of consistency. And look, if Miami wins a lot of games again, and the offensive line is in that, what is it, the Moore Award for the best O-line, correct? That's what it is.
Yep,
they're in that mix again. Obviously, Francis has the hype around him, but
you already have Cantwell locked in.
Yeah, I just think that there's a chance that he could push to be a first-round pick.
Okay. Oh, well, what I was speaking to the greater thing, the development of Markel Bell is the reason why the Jackson Cantwells of the world come to Miami, because they want to get developed here at the next level. You mentioned intelligence being something that this staff keys in on. A player like Pancake Concho Sampson is a guy that maybe frustrates some Hurricanes fans because they just kind of want to see him, but he's a player that's already graduated. So it is a real premium that Miami puts between the years, it would seem. Now, that granted, they like their measurables too, but it is an interesting approach when it comes to talent acquisition along the trenches that's probably overlooked. They like smart guys.
Yeah, especially when you're paying them a lot of money, right? So even with a Sampson, you're paying a lot of money. He didn't come in and dominate like Francis did, and like you probably wanted him to. But at least you know he's getting better and he's taking coaching, and some of these offensive linemen peak later. That's very much a developmental position. Some are like Francis and they dominate as freshmen, but not all. So I think that's when you're paying, at least me, my opinion, the more I've watched recruits succeed or fail, don't like players that are not smart. It's hard to do much with them, or players that don't care. It's just hard. Like, what can you do with them? If you have a player who's smart and cares, you have a chance. Look at Josh Allen. Josh Allen at quarterback. The whole story used to be you couldn't improve your accuracy in college or in pros, right? That was always what I heard growing up. You cannot improve your accuracy in the pros. That was the cliche.
Don't you think that was a misnomer too? Like, the greatest quarterback of all time is Tom Brady, and he improved his accuracy like seemingly year over year.
Well, accuracy was, it did improve, but he was accurate in college. I think he improved his physical a lot too. Like, he just got stronger and just better shape. He did improve his accuracy, but like Josh Allen was an inaccurate quarterback that became accurate. But I think what you had with him was you had great tangibles. He was huge. He had a rocket. He was fast.
Watching him in college, like trying to because I was a Browns fan at the time, and people were talking about him as a #1 pick, and you're perpetually scouting the next big thing. I saw like a big goof. I didn't see it. I like most people, and let's not pretend like most people didn't think.
I didn't think he'd be accurate enough.
Yeah, I think you'd be a turnover machine at the next level. I also didn't. One thing that wasn't really talked about is, despite the measurables, no one knew that he could be that mobile. Yeah. No one knew how talented of a runner that he would be. Not just the speed, which was a surprise. And a couple guys will do that to you, surprise you with their speed at the next level. Baker Mayfield being one of those guys too that surprises people with their mobility, but really the power.
Yeah.
In terms of like a running comp at the position, it's Cam Newton.
Yep.
He's an unstoppable red zone weapon. And I don't blame people for missing on Josh Allen, because that was not something that he flashed at Wyoming whatsoever. But also, he seems to be really smart at going through his progressions. He obviously picks up on coaching, which is a trait of intelligence. People undersold what was between the ears when it came to Josh Allen.
Well, I remember when he came out, that was the sell was he killed the Wonderlick, if I recall. Like, he had great interviews. He was a farm kid. I think he was like a farm All-American.
Yeah, his family owns, I forget which type.
There was like a farm ranking, and he was higher ranked as a farmer than
Josh
as a quarterback coming out of high school. Something like that. But they like the intelligence and just the work ethic and stuff. So
he has a 3,000-acre family farm that grows pistachios. Love pistachios.
Yeah, big pistachio guy. Pete, I know you are a big pistachio guy.
Love pistachios.
I love Iranian pistachios.
Did they make pistachios?
Yeah, Iran.
I know Middle East in general is a good pistachio spot.
Iran makes the best pistachios. We should talk to a mutual friend that we have to see if we can get those. Smuggle them in the country.
But yeah, so when you have the IQ, I think you're able to.
I don't really remember that. I just looked at Josh Allen and was like, here's some other big goof that's not mobile with a big arm.
No, that was the sell. Was that, yeah, he doesn't have this, but because of his IQ, it can come together. Because even his football IQ wasn't that high, but it was more like the kid. They're betting on the kid. A guy that I can say for sure that I liked and I said should have been a top 10 pick out of high school or out of college, and I have receipts on, is Jalen Hurts. Because Jalen Hurts came out and they said he can't throw enough. Well, he threw at every level, and he has the work ethic to tighten up the screws that he needed to, and he did. Right, because you were betting on the tangibles, which was his physical strength and size. His arm strength was good. His athleticism was outstanding. And you were also betting on the kid. So I think in general, and we're going to get to these offensive line questions in a second.
I do, but I want to seize on this intangible conversation, because like there are a lot of guys. Jaquan Johnson was a guy that was really reputed to be smart.
Cam
Kitchen's smart.
Restrepo.
Yeah, when you're looking at intangibles, at guys that don't necessarily check all the boxes, at these like 3-star guys, these expanded board guys, if you will, you look at the brains, and it doesn't necessarily let you down all that often, does it? When did it let you down? Amari Carter?
Well, Amari Carter is a good one because he was a smart guy. But
he was a smart guy, but he didn't play smart.
I mean, he played.
But he never played smart.
No, but I mean, he played. That's part of his game, was that he was an intimidator back there. I think his weakness was probably more of his mobility. He played. He helped us play. We played good defense with Amari Carter. It's not like those
when he was available.
When he was available, right? But
we get him at halves at a time.
Good halves, and he scared you for the other half.
I was really sick of how often you would say how smart Amari. This was me as like podcast listener, Mike. You would constantly tout Amari Carter's brains.
Bro, in high school, he picked us over Notre Dame.
He still has the GPA in his head.
He picked us over Notre Dame. Amari Carter gave us some good work, man. I mean, we played good defense with Amari Carter.
I don't really remember him that his entire final season with Miami, he was on the field maybe 25% of the time because he was serving half penalties.
Well, how about this? I'll flip it on you. If you are a smart guy, let's say you're Amari Carter, you're self-evaluating, you're like, man, I'm not that quick. I'm not going to be covering guys in the slot. I'm not going to be winning too many foot races.
I love this.
But I have a talent to just knock people's heads off. So I'm just going to make that my thing. I'm just going to knock people's heads off. I'll be suspended for some time, but when I'm in, I'll make an impact with violence. So he just self-assessed,
he made an impact,
I think, pretty well. It's almost like
what happened to him?
Sweeney, she self-assessed pretty well, and she leans into what she does well. So you got to self-assess, and I think he self-assessed properly. And it wasn't he was being done by knocking people out. That's what he was there for. What else are you going to do?
What became of him?
Sure, he's doing well in business or something like that.
I'm gonna tell you, when he shows his kids his highlights one day, his kids are gonna say, "You were the
What the heck
biggest
were you
badass ever, man."
Well, we
right.
had a great transition here, and I want to transition here. I'm gonna defer to you guys because you guys are the experts on this. I have not played this game yet. I played the last one. Haven't played this one yet. Waiting for my son to get back from sleep.
Yeah, your sons are of this age.
Can we add them to the dynasty, Mike?
I've been playing Mario Kart, Rainbow Road. I've been schooling my son in Rainbow Road. He has no clue what's going on. I got towed with the tight control of the cart, dominating in Mario Kart. But the next game up, and Shaylin has the comment right here. He says, our defense is trash in college football 26, which was just released. Johnny Lagoon says someone needs to ask Cristobal about Coach Lou Hernandez. So I will give the floor to the gamers, the members of the league.
Yeah. What was his name last year? Rick Cavana?
Yeah. But remember, no one had real names, obviously. So I think we start there. The conversation about how Mario did not opt into the game. I think there was 30 coaches or something that didn't. My thing's this: there's two huge names, Belichick, Dion, who did not opt in either. I'm sure that theirs was Belichick never opted into Madden.
No,
right? So that's not a surprise. Dion, I'm sure that he wanted a certain number that was not reached there. Mario, that's a double-edged sword for me, because part of me is surprised, the other part of me is not. Obviously, we understand Mario is, grind it out, hard nose. We don't have time for video games and anything like that. But on the other side of it, it's, I think, somewhat of a recruiting marketing opportunity. Let's call it that. It's not going to cost you anything. You just put your face in the game, and you have got people across the country playing the game, seeing your face in there, and for future recruiting things. I just think that it's a marketing opportunity there, and for me, knowing how into that stuff he is and understanding how important perception is, I would have thought he would want to be in the game.
I would say it's an overthink by Mario, but I don't think he gave it more than 5 seconds of thought and just said no, because coaches cut like him are just naturally predisposed to do any of that extra stuff. I'm with you. I don't see the harm in it at all from a branding perspective. I mean, just from your own locker room perspective, you have a bunch of other kids opting into the game. They're in your locker room. They're obviously excited about it. Have some banter with your team, bond over the fact that you're in this game. But then you also have the awkward situation of you getting fired from your team, your coach deciding to take another opportunity. So I kind of get it too. I don't know. I'd probably not do it if I were in the same spot. I don't want to get. You can get memed.
You can get memed.
Yeah.
I don't think Mario's into getting memed.
Well, you get memed right now. This is how
Hector Luna.
They don't look anything like the people that they're.
Because then they'd have to pay for.
Yeah, but this is the second straight year where we've had a Hispanic head coach. What are the odds? Last year, Rick Cavana. This year, Lou Hernandez.
Yeah, I thought he would have done it, but
how about this? Lou Hernandez is an A+, where Hector Luna is a B+.
Here's what Kyle's saying: if a recruit's making a decision based on who is in the game, then I don't want him.
You'd be surprised, man. These are teenagers.
305 Shaman saying if he wins a natty, then I think he'll allow it. Got to handle business first. All right.
Yeah.
Lou Hernandez is the bus boy at Las Canarias.
Oh.
Hector Luna works at Las Brisas. Hector Luna.
Hector Luna is a wild Kirkpatrick.
Kirkpatrick.
not. They're like Kirkpatrick. It has what should be a last
the coaches?
name.
Are you allowed to modify the coaches? They should change that rule.
Well, you can create your own coach. I guess you could make a Amari Cristobal, but he's gonna, you have to build him up. I guess at that point you start at zero.
Yeah, I guess you want to have fun. I mean, I started a dynasty with Hawaii. It was great to see Timmy Chang out there. Didn't expect it. Wanted to create my own, and then I remembered all the wonderful memories that I had at 1:15 a.m. chasing on the day with Timmy Chang trying to get a backdoor cover. So I decided to roll with him. I think it's cool. Yeah, you can get memed, but look, Ruben Bain got memed. Did you see that? There are some bugs in this game. Did you see that?
Yeah, he was doing the gator
He
chomp.
was doing the gator chomp in full Canes uniform. Buddy hit the transfer portal in the middle of the game.
Come on.
So,
Nashville Cane. Remember, Jordan was never in the NBA games power move. That's right. I remember NBA Live 96. Never was able to have Jordan had to create him, I believe.
Barry Bonds, same thing. John Dowd, famously in MVP Baseball, one of the greatest sports video games of all time. The one with Manny Ramirez on the cover. I think that was 2004. Great soundtrack. John Dowd, the legend of John Dowd. White guy.
I will say, oh yeah, he was he was Barry Bonds, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think, was he a righty too? They changed him up big time.
Yeah,
there you go. They're leaving nothing to
to
chance. Leaving nothing to chance with John Dowd.
So to the comment earlier that said the defense is not good in the game. I actually had the opposite thought. I thought they were better than last year's game in the few games that I played.
Do you think Xavier Lucas is underrated in the game?
Oh yeah, he's
he's
78 rated. But
yeah, how is that? They're suing over the player. Don't they read the? You know what? I really do think they rely on Pro Football Focus too much. Is what I think.
I mean, you have how many players? It's going to be pretty difficult for them
for sure. But
but for a premier player like him, who's I think they should probably go more off of combine that with like the portal rankings maybe,
or talk to the coaches too.
Yeah, well,
they would have a pretty good idea.
That's tough. That's a pretty tough.
I know Tommy Kinsler would be in 99 overall if they talked to Mario 3 years ago.
But Pro Football Focus, to me, we've had this rant before. I think with certain positions they're good. When you talk about offensive line and secondary, they're terrible because those units are in sync. So you just, without knowing what everybody's doing, it's very hard to grade. I mean, the idea that Miami, Notre Dame, and Penn State are not in the top 5. None of them are in the top 5 of the offensive lines in the country. I mean, everything they put out there, I can disregard when they do something like that. It's just kind of stupid. And D-backs is the same. Defensive backs is the same thing. Or James Williams one time was like a 95 cover grade, which I love James Williams, but he's playing linebacker in pros for a reason. So, it's hard to grade things that are like in sync by definition. And those units can only play in sync.
I was also going to say that the defense is rated it's like the 15th rated defense in the game. So I don't know, man. Top 15 defense might be a user skill issue. I'm sorry.
Coach Jenko saying player 89 for Jordan in NBA Live 98. Josh Gross upset at Gary. Gary's welcome. Gary's welcome in the chat, man. We love Gary.
I saw Matt Shodell was in here too. Shout out to Matt.
Yeah. All right. Can I ask a Shamar Brown question? I've been trying to ask for 2 weeks. There seems to be a real
Shamar Marty Brown.
Yeah. The NDSU transfer. Or
yeah, because it's spelled Charmar, which we always thought was like a Pokemon situation.
Yeah. Does he have a Charmander nickname?
Actually, you pronounced it right though. It's Charmar.
Does he have
Shamar?
Does he have a nickname?
From me?
No, just like I assume, like when you spell your name like that, like
Marty.
Yeah, nice Nebraska nickname.
Like
Marty.
The artist
Marty
of our intro and outro.
Right.
Song.
Shout out to Marty. Shout out to he should sue for infringement there. That's the king of Miami right there. You don't come into Miami and call yourself Marty.
So I think that there was a segment of certainly the message board community and social media. Marty Brown's got some legs on him. He looks the part, and it's war of attrition a football season, and Miami rotates. You saw last year, they didn't really know what their real running back cadence would be until mid-season. It wasn't until that Louisville game where you finally saw what their plan was. We'll hammer Fletcher early, and then Damian Martinez will find his groove later into the game. Lyle kind of fell out of favor a little bit late in this season, but you saw in the earlier part of the season, he was getting a lot of playing time. Bottom line is there's a role for Marty Brown on this team right now. I think people kind of trust him as a goal line back, even though that's not necessarily where Miami needs. You want some depth there, especially later in the game. You want to put a game on ice. You want to salt it away. Don't necessarily want to use up Mark Fletcher, who's been shown to get some injuries here or there and has a bit of a slender frame this year. So is that where you see him? And are there any aspects to his game that might surprise? Because this guy looks like he's a load, hard to bring down, looks like you're not prototypical, but looks like a really stout goal line back. But is there any sizzle to his game? Anything that people might be sleeping on when it comes to Marty Brown?
15 touchdowns last year for
production.
Marty Brown. So I think on the goal line, you're dead on. I would say weakness, the weakness would be just the explosive plays. I think he only had one run over 30 yards, whereas the other guys had more. in limited duty. But I think fitting into the offense, you had a great point. Fletcher's injuries, you don't want either of those guys getting hurt. You want all of them healthy, running full speed, especially with the style of run. They're all hard runners.
Mhm.
I don't think any of them really avoid contact or have a tremendous amount of patience. They're pretty much hammers. Maybe Jordan Lyle's a little more early, but he kind of hits it pretty hard.
But he also put on weight to kind of be able to take more of a beating.
Yeah, we had that thigh discussion earlier in the show. I think all these guys would have qualified for that. They are big dudes, and I think that's going to be the identity. Really was the same as last year with Damian Martinez. Is do not lose any yards. Last year we were the best team, I believe, in the country, or at least top 3 in avoiding tackles for loss. And I think this year you're going to see the same thing, which allows you to control the down and distance. We are elite on third down. It'd be nice. So in 2023, the number 1 third down offense in the country by far was Georgia, as far as third down conversion percentage, elite. This past year, Miami was number 1 by 5 percentage points. So distance between 1 and 2 was like 2 and
That's
20.
super surprising considering how much they leaned on the pass game when it came to third down conversions.
But they had good down and distance. And we also, these guys, if it was third and short, these guys ran it all the time and with ease. We were short yardage monsters. But I think more than the reason the pass game works so well with Ward, when Washington State really struggled on third down, or at least was average, let's say, or below, they were always in favorable down and distance because you never lost yardage. If you run the ball, a lot of people say, why don't we run outside more? Why don't we have more of these exotic kind of run plays? Well, if you run outside on a stretch play and you get, they blitz into it 2nd and 12, what are your chances of getting that first down? Tremendously decreased.
We didn't really have the personnel for it, though. Lyle's the only guy that can really pull away on the outside.
Damian Martinez in Oregon State ran outside a lot more, right, Pete? That running game in Oregon State.
Which incarnation of Damian Martinez, in shape or out of shape?
Yeah,
have you seen the videos that he's posted lately? He's slimmed down big time. And talking to someone who was familiar with his draft process, that was probably the biggest that teams wanted him slimmer, man. Teams saw him out of shape in the beginning of the season.
He got the message.
Yeah. No, he turned it on.
He got the message, and unlike last year, he didn't do it too late because that was why we were pounding the table for Fletcher to take over the role for Lyle because
Not say we.
Okay.
Who's we?
That's why I was pounding the table, and Damian Martinez himself said that he was about 10 pounds overweight, and he got into shape over the course of the season. And by the way, there was a direct correlation with him getting himself into shape and the production meeting that moment. Again, Louisville was really the turning point for him, and he'd actually lost his RB1 job there. So I'm not taking any L's for Damian Martinez. If anything, I'm saluting him for figuring it out. Probably figured it out a little too late. And I think Miami actually, by the end of the season, was a victim of Cam Ward's success. And if Damian Martinez got it going earlier in the season, things like what happened in Syracuse probably don't happen. Which brings me to this year. We all fell in love with Cam Ward. Cam Ward got us out of some binds. Sometimes he put us in those binds, and we kind of got unbalanced. You have a 21-0 lead at Syracuse. Bad teams should hold on to that type of lead, especially a team that was running at a pretty damn good clip like Miami was. I know they had some unfortunate calls over there. What I like about having Carson back in the fold is you have a guy that can make a lot of big-time pro throws. You have a first-round potential talent. But I think for whatever reason, the flash that he brings to the game is nowhere near what Cam does from a splash type of play. And you just become infatuated with this weapon. And a lot of times you just take off the headset and say, hey, Cam has us here. I think Miami's approach is going to be a lot more balanced this year. And I'm actually excited about that because I actually think we have the personnel in that backfield to really salt these games away. I really like Jordan Lyle. My hot take is that Jordan Lyle is going to end up being the fan favorite this year because he's going to bring a game-breaking aspect to that position that Miami probably hasn't had since Lamar Miller, Duke Johnson.
26 has something for you. He pressed the sarcasm button there, Mike. He said, yeah, if we established the run more, we could have had something like the number one offense in the country and one of the best in recent history.
I get it. Look, no complaints last year outside of the fact that you led 21-0 in a game that you were running over 7 yards per carry on. You should have put that game away. You didn't. You can blame referees. You can blame fumbles. You could also blame the fact that why the hell did we get away from the running game?
I had a thought on Marty Brown, just trying to, we love the comparison game here. And I think he's going to be a guy who's going to be a bit of a slow burn. I don't think that the first time Canes fans watch him, they're going to be like, man, this guy's jumping off the screen. Because I think AJ Allen maybe had a little bit more of that juice to him, where he maybe could turn nothing into something. But you don't necessarily need a guy like that behind this Miami offensive line. The guy that I'm going to compare him to from Canes past, I don't think Marty Brown's as fast as this guy, because this was like someone who had some track speed, but I think similar body types and just someone who consistently would pick up yardage. Damian Barry.
Ooh.
Similar body type.
Yep.
I was looking up there. Damian Barry was listed at 5'10", 223.
Always falling forward.
Never lost yards.
Never lost yards.
No patience, which worked out.
But
yeah,
between the tackles and just getting that 5-6 yard. I mean, his junior year average 6.6 yards a carry on 93 attempts, and then 4.7 the year after that had 900 yards.
Gus Edwards was a lot like that too during his time in Miami. He learned to be a little bit more patient of a runner, but just like, I can eat by giving you 4 yards.
And had legit speed.
But when I say no patience, I'm not trying to knock Damian Barry at all, because I think in this system,
it's a great comp.
No patience, great comp. No patience. This is not a system built on patience, and sometimes people are too patient, and it hurts your offense. So Damian Martinez's running style was perfect for what he did. He was an extremely effective back, really, really solid player for us. So a couple comments I want to get to.
Yeah, Brian shouts out Dallas Crawford, which is where the comp that I was going to there, which wouldn't necessarily get excited. I think people think back on Damian Barry's time here fondly. That was just a weapon. You knew that if you needed 2.5 yards, he'd certainly get you there, because he would always fall forward. So you got me excited with the Damian Barry comp.
So EJ has a couple comments I want to address here. He says, I can't wait for the tightest splits in the country and D-Money to sell us that we never lost yardage with those tight splits. Then he said, if you have to have tight splits for your O-line not to give up yardage, and how can we have such a good O-line? So glad you brought this up. So here's how it breaks down. So obviously we didn't lose yards, and we had the #1 offense in the country by far, and our conversion rate was outstanding. But here's the other part as I share my screen. The #5 team in America in yards per attempt. So forget lost yardage. In yards per attempt, #5. Who's ahead of us? Notre Dame by like 0.1, who had Jeremiah Love, who's a home run hitting running back, and they had a running quarterback. Boise State, who had Ashton Jeanty. Kansas State, who had NFL running back who was built on speed plus a running quarterback. And then New Mexico, which had like a crazy offense and a running quarterback. So right there, you're looking at teams that, I mean, traditional teams, Miami's ahead of everybody, basically running the ball from a yards per carry standpoint. So what does that do with the tight splits and all that? He's saying, well, if you need this tight splits to protect your offensive line, why is your offensive line good? It's not about protecting the offensive line. Any team, I don't care if you are the Philadelphia Eagles, if let's say you're pulling or you're trying to get outside, the right blitz or the right play can blow it up, just because the time it takes for the play to go. It doesn't matter how good you are. Tight splits reduce that, just because obviously the splits are tighter. The only reason Miami could have such tight splits and run the ball as efficiently as they did is, #1, you have to have an extremely powerful O-line that can just move guys, because they don't need movement to create gaps. They don't need all of this stuff to create gaps like you see with the Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins do not have a overpowering offensive line or overpowering backs, but there's a ton of movement and a ton of ways to get these big runs. Miami's getting that efficient running game just by moving people up front with the offensive line, and having these giant backs that can, without having to wait, without having any patience, without creating the opportunity for a lost yardage play, can just hit it and plow forward because of their power. So you have to have better personnel to run this kind of offense. Because if you're like a team that's weak, if you're Florida State, you have bad running backs and a bad offensive line, you can't play this kind of games. You're not going to get any yards. You're certainly not going to be top 5 in yards per carry. I mean, they were last with whatever they were trying to do anyways. So this is actually a function of us having the personnel to play this, but it just reduces the inherent risk when you run outside or you have all this movement up front, because when you do that, you create the opportunity, just because of a blitz or a good read or whatever, for a negative play, even if you have the good personnel. So that's why Miami plays this way. It's not going to be the most beautiful running style. You're not going to have a lot of 70-yard touchdowns, although we had a few last year. But what you're going to do is you're going to run the ball efficiently, which we did, top 5 in the country. You're going to always be ahead of the sticks, which we were. We were the best third down offense in the country by far. I mean, 55% #1. I mean, let's pull up while we're pulling up the stats, Mike. Let's place it with some stats here. Let's go to teamrankings.com.
Mexico's quarterback was Dan Pierre, right? He transferred. He transferred to Utah.
And they had a crazy offense too. Like that go-go offense, right? That was them. So here we go. Let's go third down conversion percentage. Number 1, Miami, 55%, 55.4%. Look at number 2, 50%. So what's 50 minus 5.4? Pete, help us with the math. 50 minus 5.4.
44.6.
All right, so let's go. So look how far we have to scroll before we get to 44.6. Right here, 24th. So the difference between Miami and number 2 is the same as the difference from 2 all the way down to 24. That's how good we were on third down. And you like the people might say, oh, well, that's Cam Ward. Well, let's pull up the stats again. I shouldn't have left it because let's pull up the stats again. You say, oh, it's just Cam Ward. Okay, well, let's look at 2023. And let's look for Washington State. By the way, look at number 1. Who are the quarterback in 23 for this?
It'd be Carson Beck.
Scroll. 51. Washington State, 40. 10 percentage points less for Washington State.
Wow.
So, and Washington State had just as good, if not better, receivers, in my opinion, than Miami. They had Joshua Kelly, who went to Texas Tech and was a borderline 1,000-yard receiver. And they had Kyle Williams, who was a second-round pick, Pete, this year. Certainly way higher draft pick than any of our receivers. So it wasn't the receivers that was the difference. Arroyo made a big difference for sure, but it was really the running game and the fact that we were always in favorable down and distance for Cam Ward to do what he does. So you can call it boring. You could say what you want, but that is the story of that's how our running game, the splits, the personnel fit in with Cam Ward. And tying it all back to Marty Brown and those thighs, watch Marty Brown play. He only averaged 4.8 yards a carry. He didn't have a lot of big runs, but that guy was always forward, hitting it hard, like Damian Barry. Great comp by Pete. Not a lot of patience, just hitting it hard, getting what's there. And that's why he had 15 touchdowns. That's why he won the FCS Freshman of the Year.
Great insight there, D-Money. Shall we move on to some nonsense? I know our time here is limited.
Move on to some. I think we started with some nonsense.
Well,
I had to bring the stats there at the end.
Happy All In Week, everybody. It's AEW's biggest card of the season, so let's jump right in with the Wrestler of the Week. I'm going to kick things off here because a dream match, a rematch from a great rivalry that happened in Japan. You were probably watching New Japan because when Kazuchika Okada was pound for pound one of the best professional wrestlers on the planet. I know you were a big Okada guy.
Watch those matches.
You're a big Okada guy. He obviously came over to the United States, and like a lot of AEW signings, hasn't necessarily worked out. Hard to translate to the American audience. Came over as a heel, and got to be honest, not in the best shape. But you'd be happy to know, and I think it's a bad case study because you wanted to give AEW a chance. You liked what AEW was doing. And then I think that AEW lost you.
Big time.
Yeah. But I would say now's a good time to check back in. You got the go home show before their biggest card of the year, All In. And the build has been good. And I expect an overbooked, nonsensical main event that should be really fun and potentially maybe even a title change with Hangman Page. We'll see. Which, by the way, I think Hangman Page should crack your top 5 in terms of guys who are actively going right now. Big, believable, strikes, old school, good on the mic, has a good look. He is built for D-Money fandom, and you're missing out on some really good work that he is doing. But let me turn my attention to Kazuchika Okada, who's got his body back in a better shape, and he's back in his sweet spot of working with Kenny Omega right now. This was the match that Tony Khan always had in his mind.
Not the main event.
Not the main event. Let me get Omega and Okada in front of a stadium in the United States and let them tear the house down. It'll be really interesting to see if these guys can hold up to what they've already done, which is arguably some of the greatest matches of all time. Kazuchika Okada probably came to the United States a little too late in his career. Moreover, he probably went to the wrong promotion. But whatever. He is here. He is all elite, and he's going up against his greatest rival in Kenny Omega, and I fully expect him and Kenny to once again tear the house down. Interesting booking decision where Tony Khan places this on the card. A lot of wrestling nerds are going to be in the house over that toaster oven in Dallas, Texas. Strangely enough, there are 3 big-time professional wrestling cards going down this weekend. You have the women's PLE Evolution. You have Saturday night main event, the Bill Goldberg final retirement match or supposed retirement match. And you have All In. All In is the biggest show out of the bunch. It is the marquee show for AEW. They've sold over 25,000 tickets. It's going to be the hottest crowd in professional wrestling this weekend. And if you're Tony Khan, you're going to go down swinging if you're indeed going down. And he's going down with Kazuchika Okada and Kenny Omega. If you're not familiar with Okada's resume, check out the matches with Kenny Omega that he had over in New Japan. There'd be great on-ramps into some awesome stuff that he did with Naito, Tanahashi. He was New Japan's biggest star for 5 years. He was basically their John Cena. When he was at his apex, one of the best drop kicks you'd ever see in the history of the business. Great all-time wrestler. Hopefully he can tap back into that previous form and tear the house down one more time.
I'm with you on Okada. My favorite guy in AEW for sure. MJF said this week that people kind of overrated the guys that came straight from WWE, and just because you were in WWE doesn't mean you're going to be great elsewhere. And I agree with him, actually. There's a lot of those guys that are just mediocre no matter where they are. Mm-hmm. The one guy I would say was fumbled was this man right here, Okada. I think I did watch those matches with Omega after the fact, right? But really, really good. The styles fit. You mentioned Cena, which I guess in terms of where he was on the card, then that's a good comparison. But in terms of style, he reminded me a lot of Randy Orton.
Yes.
Really kind of the same exact wrestler. They both had the drop kick. They had power slams. Similar look. Orton's super jacked now, but they were kind of that same size. And timing. Old school wrestler Okada didn't do a ton of flips and all that. It was just all about timing. He was great for Omega because Omega did all the crazy spots, and he just kept it grounded a little more than maybe some of the other opponents when he went against them, because he was a ground-based wrestler. He kept it grounded. The high spots were high, and then this guy kept it grounded. So big fan of Okada. I hope they can get it working with him, because I agree with you. Obviously, I thought he should have gone to WWE.
You going to watch this card? You going to give it a chance?
Well, I mean, I got Saturday Night's Main Event. I got the Evolution, which of course we love women here, so I'll be supporting. I'll support the ladies, and I have to take care of my family as well, potentially. But,
all things that show that you need to reevaluate your priorities, because it's y'all in.
Are you gonna have a party at your house this year?
I think I'm gonna try to watch this one live. It's July 12th. Yeah, I think I'm gonna be following this one along. I think it's gonna be a real good card. I think the main event's gonna be overbooked nonsense, but let's see what they do for the go home show. Why don't you give
look at this? Hangman Page needs to send Magnum TA royalty checks, copyright infringement.
No doubt. Heavy influence on Magnum TA, and I guess if you're going to borrow from guys like Magnum TA and Brian Pillman, guys that never fully fulfilled their promise. Hangman Page, he delivered an all-Spanish promo in Mexico. I think really sky's the limit for Hangman Page, and that's what AEW needs to get back to. Some of those homegrown talents, guys that they made stars. They need to get away from, and MJF gave voice to it, get away from some of these big impact signings, middling guys that fans thought, oh, they have a much higher ceiling and Vince doesn't know what he's doing with them. They come over to AEW, have a terrible work ethic, and think that they should be booked a certain way, and it always fails. Very few success stories there for AEW. You could argue that their biggest success story was probably Tony Storm, where proof of concept. Yes. This person was not used well. They came over and totally made them a superstar.
Hands down.
Yeah.
And Cody Rhodes the first time.
Yeah. Cody Rhodes too. But a lot of that credit goes to Cody. Cody reshaped Cody.
And he was better at WWE. He took it to another level.
Yeah,
too.
No doubt. No doubt. Magnified
the second time.
No doubt. Magnified it. And there are certain things that WWE does that AEW should never try to replicate. Stadium shows is probably one of them. We'll see. This should be a much better atmosphere in this baseball stadium if they close the dome than it is in Wembley, which is kind of like weird. You have passionate fan bases, but the sound kind of gets drowned out a little bit. But if you have good matches, they should pop, and Okada promises to deliver a good match.
And we'll see. I mean, Omega's lost some speed naturally, not anything his fault. He took a lot of bumps. He's old.
Diverticulitis.
He got sick. Yeah, that knocked a lot out of Brock. Although Brock's wrestling didn't go down. His UFC went down. His wrestling still stayed pretty good.
I thought he got better. I thought by the time Brock left, he was probably at the top of his game.
Yeah, I think you're right. So we'll see how it goes. That's going to be an interesting match to watch. I'll probably check that one out, pirated, at least that match. My wrestler of the week had to go back to the franchise. Not only a very prominent poster on CanesInsight.com, 7.44 million posts and counting, but also the name of Shane Douglas, who, there's a class of these guys that is like the blonde, clean-cut wrestler. Everything is going to be good in WCW or whatever, and then they are not. And they go to ECW and get mad that they were kind of bust. And then when they get mad, that's when they get their juice. Stone Cold never really wrestled into ECW, but he went over there, did his promo. He was the rookie of the year, the future of WCW, next Ric Flair, didn't pan out, goes to ECW, gets mad, cuts the best promo of his life besides the Austin 316 promo. And there you go, off and running. Shane Douglas, same thing. was going to be the next big thing. Blonde guy, had all the tools, doesn't work out, kind of bland, goes to ECW, does the throwing the NWA title in the trash promo, becomes the franchise. Great with the triple threat with Candido, with Dan Bigelow. Love the stable. Francine, tremendous escort. Really helped the transition from escorts looking like classy, prom queens to exotic dancers, which ECW really pushed that one. That was big in my adolescence, in my growth as a human.
Yeah.
But
wasn't he the dean in
the dean? Terrible.
In WWF?
Oh,
that was when, like, we talked about this with Duke the Dumpster Droese, where Vince got really hung up on gimmicks being occupations. And he was given the dean, and then he gets the ECW, throws away the NWA title, becomes like a renegade. For me, the in-ring chops never matched the character. He was a great character, and not like a super unique character, but unique in the scope of ECW. They had a bunch of guys like Sandman, a bunch of guys that would wrestle in jeans, and it was good to have like a traditional bad guy kind of in the mold of a Nature Boy, but the in-ring never really matched. I know he dealt with a lot of injuries.
He got hurt, and he got bigger.
He got bigger, too big. Then he started trying to wrestle ECW style matches, and that his body betrayed him more. By the time he got to WCW, tried to replicate the same gimmick, was just DOA. But for a hot minute there, when he was healthy, when he was feuding with the likes of Terry Funk, the Candidos of the world, this guy had the world by the balls, and great promo at the time. In terms of like the champions, or I think Bret Hart was champion at the time. You had Hogan doing his like Hollywood Hogan thing. Out of all the major world champions, Shane Douglas was the best promo at that time. Certainly the edgiest.
And he looked like a champion of ECW. He looked like the guy supposed to be champion. Pete, did you figure out this like and subscribe graphic? I see it dancing there in the bottom left.
Listen, we're just working over here.
The Tommy Dreamer, the Tommy Dreamer rivalry. Like that was basically, that was their Orton Cena a little bit.
Yep.
A guy that was always traditionally the fan favorite guy who was always traditionally the villain. I'm glad we got to give this guy some shine. Shane Douglas, even though he was probably outside of Taz, the most identifiable ECW champion, still a case of what if.
Yeah.
What if that Shane Douglas had the opportunity to fly elsewhere before he was damaged goods? We'll never know.
Yeah, shout out to the franchise. I believe he stole that nickname from Steve Francis, by the way, out of the University of Maryland.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first franchise that I can recall.
So, song of the week, I'll be brief. I don't know if you saw the awesome videos. This was right up your alley. The Ozzy Osbourne tribute concert, Black Sabbath reuniting, the super jams, the super group. Steven Tyler, who has retired from Aerosmith. Remember, Aerosmith stopped touring because Steven Tyler said, I can't do the day in and day out grind. My voice is gone. Could have fooled everybody with his incredible performance at Ozzy Osbourne.
He got me too, I think, too, that he had to kind of lay low
recently.
For a minute. Steve Tyler, yeah, he got a little
very recently.
Yeah, like I think he had to lay low a little bit.
No, okay. Well, he cited his voice, and if you watch the videos, his voice was shot from these shows, but his voice sounded as good as it did in the 90s. Steven Tyler was amazing, but it was weird. It was kind of like a wake for somebody that was alive. And I came away from watching these videos. I'm like, well, I guess Ozzy Osbourne's got to die at any moment now, because what else is there to live for? Because you have him singing "Mom, I'm Coming Home" and the crowd singing it back to him, and you see it across his face. Like he kind of realizes this is it. I have nothing else to give, and it was pretty awesome. Well, check out "Sweet Leaf" by Black Sabbath. Wanted to give Black Sabbath some love. Black Sabbath. Ozzy Osbourne often played at Miami Hurricanes games. Sometimes it's the Trick Daddy version of the famous cover, Let's Go. But wanted to give Ozzy Osbourne some love as he's hanging it up.
Peter, you're hard 2 p.m. out, or do we got like a couple minutes?
No, I never said I was.
Or you were hard?
I got to jump in on a DK call.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. All right. So you're out. Love the choice. Different sound on that second album. Kind of reminded me of like Rage Against the Machine first album, the second album. I guess that was their third album. But from Paranoid to that album, the sound got mushier, similar to Led Zeppelin 1 to 2. Rage Against the Machine, 2 Evil Empire. So I saw those. I like this choice. I like this song. It's interesting the sound change from those 2 albums. Very similar for all 3 of those artists, which I think are pretty similar aside from the rapping. My choice, real quick. Big Girl from Ghostface Killah. I broke the rule about having the same artist twice. You did it with Turnstile, so I did it with Ghostface, my favorite rapper. This song and the Holla, which he did earlier, innovated. Mike, get out of here. I know you got to go.
That's all right.
Innovated.
Am I going to miss the rest of the week? Does Pete have one?
No, I don't have.
All right.
Innovated the idea of not having samples and a beat, but actually rapping over the entire song, which he did for these two Delphonic songs. Outstanding. Loved what he did here with Big Girl. Classic album, Fish Scale. I actually stole the idea about rapping over all these songs for the preseason pod. That's why I play songs to let him ride. It was inspired by Ghostface and his innovations. 618, man, appreciate you. Great Avi with Edge. Thank you for the support. Hit that like and subscribe button. Mike, get out of here while I do this plug. You're out here, but we still got to do we still got a plug here. Miami Hurricane Team Store. I was just there with my man, Harry Rothwell. They got a ton of stuff there. Interesting promotions coming soon. They got items up to 70% off. They got a sale on polos. They got so much stuff coming in from Adidas. This stuff is being sold even more than what you see on this website. You always have that promo code INSIGHT20 for 20% off. But mess around on the website. Go to the store if you're local. They got a ton of stuff on sale. Use promo code INSIGHT. You get 20% off your first item at the Miami Hurricane Team Store. Check it out today.
Remember to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. D, you and I will be back tomorrow as well, as always. Monday through Friday, really Sunday through Sunday.
Sunday, baby.
So, all right, everyone. Appreciate the
Canes.
support. Go Canes.